want to talk on loving kindness. And I thought what I'd start is just a few reflections as if everybody in this audience was 8 years old or under. And see what happens if we can put these things together in a very simple way and then talk about it for all the grown-ups that are present. Loving kindness is a warm feeling. Just like imagining there was a smile and it traveled from your heart all the way up to your nose and all the way down to your toes. And if you imagined a smile traveling like that, what would it feel like? What would it feel like to have a smile reach all the way up to your nose and down all the way to your toes? And so when we practice loving kindness, what we're doing is we're deliberately paying attention to make this warm feeling stronger and to share it throughout our own body and to pass it to our friends. So for the adults that are present listening to this, you know, this is really the essence. And if we understand this, we understand what it's about and what can help support us in understanding what it's about, is to just have a couple of frames of reference. One of the frames of reference is to see that this quality is the opposite. It's the far enemy of the intention to hurt or to harm or to shame or humiliate, to make fun of, to ostracize. This is a closeness feeling, a care, a warmth. But what's often easy to overlook is that there are qualities that are similar or look similar, but in fact are very different. And those are the near enemies. So the near enemy of loving kindness is attachment. When we are identified with somebody, attached to them, and absolutely mesmerized by the outcome of what we do, what we say. There's no spaciousness, there's no equanimity, there's no ability to see it in perspective, to see that there are many different reasons why things are the way that they are. So when the near enemy is ill will or wanting to hurt or to harm, when the far enemy is ill will and wanting to hurt and harm, the near enemy is attachment. And so with our family, with our parents, with our children, with our lovers, sometimes our loving kindness for them moves into our attachment to them. Accentuates our attachment to them. The fact that we would feel even more devastated if something happened to them than to somebody else. So loving kindness is not the same as attachment. It's a warmth that radiates And that warmth can be cultivated in a way where it radiates really independent of who the person is. In fact, it can be cultivated so it radiates even if it's not radiating on anyone or anything, but just a force of loving kindness that is radiating out without even necessarily having some place for it to land. So one of the things about loving kindness is that there is no person in the entire universe that is more worthy of receiving it than ourselves. And one of the things that I notice with the people that I spend time with is that for many of us, actually feeling loving kindness and generating it for ourselves is a very significant challenge. So I want to tell you a little story about a person that I've met that had a really big impact on me. And part of the impact that she had on me was because her loving kindness was more powerful than any that I had ever met before. She was a tremendously, powerfully loving being. Her name was Dipa Ma. And Dipa Ma grew up or was born in East Bengal, Bangladesh. And at the partition in India, she and her family, the Barua clan, emigrated to Calcutta. And when she was just 12 years old, as was the custom of the time in India, she was betrothed to a man who was 25. And after that wedding ceremony, she went to go live with her in-laws. But her husband left the country and went to Burma so that he could work in his profession as an engineer. So she was all of a sudden, at the age of 12, without her family, living in the home of her in-laws. And she did not experience them as being very kind or caring. And then eventually, after 2 years, she joined her husband and she went to Burma. And she couldn't conceive children, which in India is not just an inconvenience or a source of grief. It's a family catastrophe. So her in-laws plotted for her son to abandon her so that he could marry another woman and bring about the much wanted and cherished offspring. And he refused. He was a noble man and said that he did not marry her for her ability to bear children. And then eventually a child was born, but that child died. And then another child was born. And that child's name was Dipa. So Dipa Ma means the mother of Dipa. And then another child was born, a boy child, which again in that culture really was a significant moment, was to have a son. And that cherished boy child also died. And then in a short period of time, after her husband was taking care of her because her health had crashed, he also became sick. And he also died very unexpectedly, very young in life. So in a very short period of time, Dipa Ma lost 2 children. She lost her health. She lost her husband. And she was living in a foreign country. And so her feeling was that there wasn't really anything in life that she was interested in. The only thing that she was interested in was meditation. And so when she started meditating, her mind opened up very quickly. And in a very short period of time, she went from being very sick and very dependent and very despondent to being radiant and luminous and independent and clear. And I spent time with Dipa Ma. And as much as I heard about the power of all of her insights and how incredibly wise she was, how incredibly powerful her concentration was, and all of the amazing, miraculous things that she could do, the thing that was the most impactful was her quality of love. It felt like being in a vast ocean of love, being around her. And it felt like she completely saw you and met you, that she knew you deeply, intimately. But all there was love. This penetrating, embracing love that welcomed, that received, that touched every part of who you were. Nothing was left exempted or hidden from Dipa Ma and her love. So when I met Dipa Ma, I had a different feeling about what love was and what its possibility was than I had ever known before. And it made me realize that this is one of the fruits of meditation practice. This love that is so vast and so pervasive and so timeless and so ever-present. That this is one of the fruits of cultivating the path of meditation, is this kind of love. And it was after meeting Dipa Ma that I had again a re-energization of my aspiration to awaken and to give my life to the path of awakening. Because I was so touched, so moved by her presence, the power of her presence, and this overwhelming, vast field of love that emanated from her, around her. I'd never known or felt or experienced anything like it before. So this is more than a smile that just goes to your noses and your toeses. This is a quality of love and kindness that extends to the far reaches of the world and even the universe. And this is what's possible in cultivating love. This is what its qualities are like, and each one of us can begin to taste it in our own lives and to begin to generate it and share it with others.